Hello and welcome to the last word on Spurs. It feels like I'm commonly saying this. We hope you are keeping very, very safe and well with everything of your life unrelated to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club right now. Thank you ever so much for joining us. If you are listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And yeah, feels like Groundhog Day, as I said on our previous show. Probably we all felt beforehand it was going to be therapy, as painful as that is
Tottenham.
to admit.
You've broken Ricky Sachs. You have broken him. Look, he's broken. And that's what Tottenham's done. Sorry, Rick.
That's fine, mate. It's so draining, isn't it? Do you know
Broken.
what? It's hour and a half of having to either be there to those wonderful fans and watching it, bearing it, listening to it. And then, like I say, us coming to do Last Word on Spurs, believe me, without the wonderful guests, without our wonderful viewers and listeners that tuned into the show, you would ask yourself, what is it all worth? Because it is really, really tough right now, being a fan, supporting the club. Just so much to get through. And it almost feels like you're just doing this every single show, rinse and repeat, not even sure where to start, not quite sure where it's going to come to an end. But Cracks, look, before I actually do open up, we are joined by the wonderful Richard Cracknell and two of British finest actors in the wonderful Darren Hartman and the superb Ricky Norwood. We're going to try and give you some therapy of what we're having to go through right now. There's already over 1,000 of you watching us live right now. So again, just already, thank you so much for all of your incredible support for the show. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to try and dissect and try to understand just what is happening right now in relation to our football club. Cracks, let me open up with you. You are here with me most weeks, as is Dow and also Rick as well. It was, if I'm, again, being honest and brutal, an absolutely spineless way to go out of the Champions League this evening. No sort of fight, which I feel for me is totally unforgivable. And then when you take into account just two efforts on target tonight against, you can't really call them a vintage AC Milan side. I think when you even dig deeper into the cracks that Spurs seem to have exposed now, we've scored just 2 in our last 6 games in all competitions. It does feel now, Cracks, look, and you tell me if you feel differently here, that Conte's exit is surely going to be expedited after this because there's big boos there at full time. I just can't see how this goes on, despite, as we know, it not being just one person's fault. It's the players, it's the manager, it's the board. But someone's got to take account for this, hasn't they, Cracks?
Well, evening, everybody. And like you said, I hope everyone's keeping well and all good, away from the circus and the clown's car on fire that Tottenham Hotspur currently are. Rick, the most telling thing of tonight, the actual game I'll start with, was we didn't even lose it 1-0. And that really told me something, because when you're in a game like that and it's all or nothing, you at least get dicked 1-0 with an 85th, 86th, 87th minute winner against you. Do you know what I mean? Because you're absolutely pushing to go and get something. You throw everything forward, you get caught on the break, 3-on-1 with the keeper or something, 2-0 on aggregate, job done. Didn't even do that, Rick. Didn't even do that. And I think that was the most telling thing, that we haven't even gone out in a blaze of glory. We've just gone out in a style what Tottenham Hotspur currently represent. And for me, Rick, that's just not Tottenham. That is just not Tottenham. That's not what I grew up watching. And I've seen some awful teams down the years. There's been some stinkers. And these players, they're not, it's not a terrible squad. Yes, there's parts of it that need dealing with, sure. But this is a fantastic squad compared to some of them I've seen. But man alive, I have never, ever seen such abject failure and abject apathy, if you like. It's one of those nights, Rick. If you was going to the Globe Theatre to go and see a bit of Shakespeare, and you have to go and see Macbeth, and I come out on stage and I go, "Oh, is this a dagger I see before me?" And if you'd have paid money like to the Royal Shakespeare Company, you'd go, "What's he doing on stage? Get blessed out here." It's like that's where it should have been. It should have been like a real grandstand. Go for it. Let them have it. And they're just not playing for Conte, Rick. It's all over. He's not a bad manager. We're a bad club, and it's as simple as that. He's not a right fit for us. It doesn't make him wrong. We're in a terrible place. We've got a checkbook manager that we've given no checkbook to, and he's just not got the players that he needs for his style of football. And he's got to go, Rick. He has to go. He's just got to go. He's got to go tonight. And do you know what? If that lot upstairs follow him out the door, then fantastic too, because there's so many people at that club that need to take a look at themselves, and that includes the players, everybody. Once again, the only people that don't need to take a look at themselves is the fans that have trudged out.
Remarkable tonight. Remarkable
again tonight and handed over the best part of 100 quid to go and get served that up. It's like this club owes the fans of the club so much gratitude, and will they get it? They won't. So I'd like to see the whole lot gone, Rick. All of them. The board, ENIC, Conte, and somebody come in with a little bit of love and care and direction for the club. I honestly would. Every one of them needs to have a look at themselves, because that tonight is completely unacceptable. To just not even have a go, to go out on a whimper like that. It's poor, Rick. It is utterly poor. It's fraudulent, bordering on fraudulent, when you're charging those sorts of prices as well. Even at a fiver to get in, that's fraudulent. That's fraudulent against the history of Tottenham Hotspur and the type of football that the club's supposed to serve up. Terrible.
You know what's funny? The cheek of the man, Antonio Conte, on the night before in his press conference said, "We need the fans to create the atmosphere." The cheek of him to actually ask that question of our supporters when these fans turn out home and away every single game, every single week. They're there. They're always there for the team. They were there tonight, but I always say this, that for fans to give their everything, it's also down to the players to show them a reason to get behind the team. And as I said, come over to you, Ricks, if I can. For me, that was a real, I use that term, disgraceful performance, because it was a disgraceful performance. We limp out of the Champions League with an absolute whimper. The body language of all those players was seriously worrying, poor. I've got to be honest and call it as I see it. For me now, it feels like the Conte project, and you was here at the start, Ricks, feels well and truly finished. It's a mess on the pitch, off the pitch, wherever you look right now. It's a total shambolic mess of a football club. Do you agree, Ricks?
Bruv, I am not Dragon's Den out. I am not Mickey Flanagan out. I am out, bruv. Whoever needs to get out, get the hell out. I am done, bruv. I have backed this guy, right, since the moment he turned up. I knew he was the wrong fit. I knew it. But you know what? I thought there was a pivotal point that we was going to start to take this opportunity and change. If we've got a win now manager, then we're going to get win now players, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We didn't do nothing. He rose the bar last year. Conte rose the bar. He rose all of our expectations, because his expectations were sky high. Coming into this season, bruv, all we have done is played this five at the back palaver. We've complained about the right wing backs. There has been no cohesion. There has been no real attacking flair this whole season. He's had a pre-season. He's had a transfer window. We've gone and got him a right wing back. And what have we got in return? Have we had one game? Like, all right, cool. We beat Chelsea. We beat Man City. But where is the guy?
Which he wasn't there for.
Listen, it doesn't matter who was there, bruv. I don't give a shizer who was there, bruv. At the end of the day, it's done. These tactics are not working. They're not defensively solid. They're not attackingly solid. They're not solid in the middle. There's nothing going on here. There's nothing going on. These players are done with the side, bruv. And I'm done with Conte now, bruv. I'm done with Conte now. I was his biggest backer. I hate the fact that in January it was back Conte and now it's Conte out. I hate it. And I hate the fact that I'm on that bandwagon as well now. I'm done because this guy who came in to do us a favor and suddenly, where's the favor? Where's the favor? We've given him 15 million. Where's the favor? We ain't got nothing. What improvement have we seen in any of the players if we're really talking harshly? If we're really going to look back at it, all the games that have happened this season.
Not this season. Not this season.
Bruv, we've not seen nothing, bruv. We saw Bentancur and Kulusevski come in January, and you can say that he improved them, but they came in, had 2 games to warm up, and then they started to hit the ground running. But what now? Who has he improved? So now he wants what? £100 million players in every position. Where's the point where you start to improve your players? Where's the point where you put people in that you can trust to do the damn job? And if the job ain't working, where is your tweak? Where is your tweak? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what is going on with these boys right now. I ain't got a clue. I haven't got a clue. But do you know what? It's time for change. It is time for change. I'm done with this, bruv. I'm done with this. I need a manager who cried and bled and had his heart on the line for us. Do you know what I mean? And we don't have that. We've got a manager doing us a favour, and I'm done with it. Because the players ain't done us no favours. The manager's not done us no favours. Do you know what? Go back to Italy. Chill your bones, bruv. Chill your bones. Go back, see your family. Get a tan. Do what you got to do. Go wherever you got to go. But I'm done with a lot of them. I'm done. And this is why it's on games like this where I phone Darren and I let this out on Darren, and Darren's the one that helps me. So Dal, I'm glad you're handing over to Dal. Dal, please.
Dal, I mean, listen, you've been here for some great nights on Last Word on Spurs. This will be one of your toughest, I'm sure. Like I say, we'll be bringing you instant reaction of Antonio Conte's press conference as soon as we get it right now. Look, it might be one of those shows this evening where we're not sure what's going to happen, but we'll obviously be keeping you in check throughout the way. Dal, Spurs are out the Champions League. Milan are advancing to the quarters. And we're going to be honest with it, we created very, very little over the 180 minutes in total. I mean, look, Milan, they were a well-organised team, but they're not world beaters. They're not an exceptional Milan side. It is a very much forgettable tie in what I hate to say, I think for me is going to be a very forgettable season. For me, my concern is, Dal, look, there's no intensity, there's no pressing, there's no creativity. It was such a very predictable and pedestrian display against the Milan side who didn't really need to do much on the night. They came in with a 1-0 lead. They didn't have to exert themselves. But again, when you peel away even further behind the cracks of Tottenham, it's a third straight game in which Spurs haven't scored. And as I referenced that point at the start, they've now scored in 2 of their last 6 games. How can we continue down this pathway with this manager, Dale? Is that possible? What do you think?
I'm in mourning. I've got the black hoodie on and I'm in a sad place because, as you said, how do we continue? And I think today, first and foremost, what I want to start with is our fan base is phenomenal. We have one of the best fan bases in the world, in world football. And today, we got the rally call from our manager to come out, and we came out. Every man in that stadium sang out, came out, and was ready. And our players gave us nothing, and that hurts because when you watch a side and when you follow a side as passionately as we do, and they turn up and give you nothing, that hurts because people paid their money to be there. People have fought through the weather to get there. People have come with the passion. I put the tweet out this morning. I was like, I don't know why, but I feel there could be a win here. I'm crazy for thinking that. And the craziness comes from our love for this side, our love for this team. And today was a moment where all of us, it's like, it's too much. I want to say it's Conte out. I want to say it's the ball out. Where I have to look first is the players who stepped out on the pitch first, because they gave nothing. Whether or not the manager has given you instruction that you don't agree with, as I say, when it's your job, you're out there in the spotlight. Everyone's watching you. If you disagree with what you've been told to do, but the spotlight's on you, there's a time and a place where you go, screw the method that I've been told to do. I'm going to do it my way. People have spoke about Son being in chains and in shackles on a form and blah, blah, blah. He looked like he wanted to hide today. And a lot of our players went into hiding on the pitch in our stadium and looked to us as the fans to go, give us a lift. When Højbjerg did it at one point, I was in my yard going, I want to come through the TV and slap you. How dare you give me these signals? How dare you give me this? Don't give me that unless you're giving me something on the pitch. And that is the sad reality of our football club right now. Our fan base is our strongest asset. Our stadium and our business is our biggest asset. Our team is not. And I know people are going to get on the bandwagon now of Harry probably should leave us and he deserves better. Today, nobody deserved better. Nobody put themselves in a shop window to be anything more than what they were. AC Milan are poor. They're a poor side. They're as bad as we are. And that's what the real reality of it. They are as bad as Spurs. They had no idea of invention. When they got into the final third, they had no idea of what they wanted to do. They should have beat us 3 or 4, but they didn't have the clinical finish that we didn't have. It was 2 embarrassing sides playing football. And ultimately, we came off the worst because we didn't try. And that's sad right now. It's the heart that burns right now. If I'm with Cracks, I'm with Rick, I'm with you, I'm with both Rickies. If we saw passion from our players, if we saw a desire to go for it tonight, we'd have been happy. If they scored one of their breakaway goals in the last 10 minutes, we'd have gone, they deserve that because we saw our boys go for it. But nobody tried. And it's a sad place to be because our season now, for most of the fans today, our season's over. No one really cares now because this 4th place is a battle that I don't see that we're looking like we want to fight for it. Is Conte staying or going? Really and truly, no one cares right now because we're all too hurt about this performance. And right now, it's a sad place to be. I'm mourning the beautiful Spurs that we used to laugh and joke about when they used to go out there and play hard. Win, lose or draw, we got a game. We saw passion, we saw belief, we saw it. To dare is to do is what is written on our crest. That is what our club is about. There was no to dare, there was no dare, there was no do. And that's the sad reality of the situation. That's a problem for everyone.
Yep. Look, Dal, perfectly summed up there. Just to go through some of these super chats we had on the screen here. Nathan Lynch says, I'm actually lost for words. This club has ruined me. No heart, no hunger, no fight, speechless. And I've got to say, people, we've got some very, as I would always say, intelligent Spurs fans that always join us for these shows. They're not stupid. They've watched this week in, week out and had to bear some of the football that we've seen. Spurs, Marco says here, it's game over for Conte. We want it to work, but it's at the point of embarrassing right now. Watching this football is asking to drive down a motorway 70 miles per hour down there screaming in second gear. It's hard because we have all given so much to this project to make it work. Pete here on the screen says here, Yol made more of an effort in the second half against Getafe and he was sacked at half time. He makes a good point. You've got to say that. And look, again, we will recognise the fact that Antonio Conte is recovering from, having his gallbladder removed. He's obviously, you can understand, probably not in the most fittest of healths. But the argument is that ultimately, as fans that pay arguably the highest prices in the country, we deserve to have, for me, a brand of football that at least is watchable. If you're gonna be charging the most expensive prices, then you have to have a brand that is at least watchable right now. And the frustration is coming right through. It really, really is here. Nathan Evans says, this squad mentality ever since the 2019 Champions League final has been bloody dismal. It's not the manager, it's the players. We need a fire sale to remove the bad eggs ruining our great club once again. I mean, Nathan makes a good point there. I think whatever we say tonight, you can't apportion the blame to just one person here. It is a combination of different people, different factors at different times when arguably Spurs could have done more and decided not to. And when I say, when you look at the situation from the very top, that message transcends for me personally that we're not winners. We're pretenders. We appoint the big name managers, but ultimately do not give them the tools to get over the line. I think, the frustration with Antonio is when you look at him, it feels like he has maybe given up on the project. And that's why I think it's very hard for fans then to try and buy into the concept that having the win now manager Antonio is going to work. You had a point this evening that South Stand is singing for Maurizio Pochettino to come home. There's been some craziness happening in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I was there the night in which, again, Nuno Espirito Santo took off Lucas Moura. And, you never thought you'd get that reaction that he did get by taking off Lucas Moura. But I have to say that when you look at some of the decisions that have been made this evening, you need a goal, you bring on Sanchez, 10 men or not. This is kitchen sink time, isn't it? It's an argument where you're going to be going out of the Champions League. You take off a forward in Dejan Kulusevski, who arguably, hasn't been in the greatest amount of form since the World Cup. But when you're losing with 10 men, what are we doing? What is the point of that? And the fans made their feelings very much heard there in terms of the noise that has transcended. We are waiting for Antonio Conte to be joining us in terms of the post-match press conference. We understand he's spoken to BT Sport. We'll give you those quotes and we've got them here. But Cracks, if I can come round to you, look, you've watched a lot of Spurs in your life in terms of football and in terms of the way the club has played. But can you honestly tell me that when you look at us right now, the tone of it's got to be some of the most boring, predictable football that we've seen. And it is incredibly draining to watch and to even feel now that it's going to be roles reversed at all in these next 15, 16 games after the season. Is it recoverable now, what we're in at the moment, Cracks?
It is, but not with Conte there, Rick. But I can't, unless he walks, I can't see us sacking him, because Nuno went for just a similar sort of stats that Conte's currently serving up, wins, losses and draws, etc. But Nuno would have been too bob to sack. So that's why they got rid of him. Jose got sacked because it was cheaper to sack him than him winning a cup. So he went. And all this will come down to tonight is how much will it cost us to sack Conte? And if that's too much money, they'll persevere with it, Rick, because this current board and owners are balance sheets. That's all they are. They're accountants. They'll look at the money side of it. There won't be no what will it do for us on a football capacity and the fans' well-being and the good of the club. It would just be a pure money decision. Simple as that. And if it's too dear to sack him, they won't sack him. See, it is as simple as that, Rick.
Can I just come in there, Cracks? We have just had Conte speak. I want to get your reaction to what Antonio just said here. So Antonio says, I'm under contract at Tottenham. Then we will decide at the end of the season with the club. My contract expires in June. We will see. They might sack me even before the end of the season. Who knows? Maybe they are disappointed. Those comments coming right through now from Fabrizio Romano. What do you make of those comments there, Cracks?
Well, he's just saying, please sack me so I can have my payoff. That's all that's saying. So now we're at an impasse, Rick. Now we've got a man who's nigh on now admitting he's not going to be there, that he doesn't want to be there. We can see he doesn't want to be there. And we've got a board that are just looking at the numbers involved. And it's the scales now. There's a scales going on of how much could we potentially lose if we drop under Conte to, I don't know, 9th, 10th place. Okay, we'll lose this. How much are we going to lose if we sack him? This. And that's what it's going to come down to. But that's the way that this current company that own the club run the club. And it's as simple as that. So it's just going to come down to a money thing. Rick, I don't want them there no more. People say, oh, you never call for them to go. I want them gone. I want them gone. They're just accountants. They're just a property company. They're just whatever. Just want some people with some heart to run the place, or at least step aside and allow some people under your stewardship to run it with a little bit more heart and soul. But they're not going to go. So we can only sort of play with the hand that's dealt with us now, isn't it? It's, people are saying, call for Poch, nothing's going to change. No, you're probably right, actually. It's just probably some new deck chairs again on the Titanic, isn't it? When he comes, because ultimately, but for the here and now and where we are, if they're not going to go, at least give us something for those last 12 games to try and look like a bit of value for money for what we're having to pay out, and give us something to cling on to. So yeah, Conte's comments, he's done. It's all done. He's just begging to be sacked, and so because if he walks, he doesn't get his money. And we just all the victims in the middle of this, especially those people that pay so much money to go. Just this war that's going on behind the scenes, and it's a mess, Rick. It's just such an horrible mess. It really is. I'm going Saturday. It's my eldest lad's birthday. He's 19 on Sunday. Happy birthday, William Nicholson Cracknell, young Bill Nick. he wanted to go to a game. So I said, okay, I'll take you. I'll tell you what, Rick, if he hadn't have asked, I wouldn't be going Saturday. I'm just done with it at the moment. Shouldn't feel like that, should it? Really shouldn't feel like that. I don't want to feel like that. I just, you know what, we're going to get served up Saturday as well. And yeah, it's a horrid mess, Rick. A horrid mess.
It's really, really hard, Rick, coming over to you to see a way in which we can move forward here. When you look at tonight, that I look at it from a football perspective, that there was no real patterns of play. There's no triangles. There's so many players that are out of form. There seems to be, again, the coaching seems to be zero. There's nothing really unique to make you think that anything's going to massively change. Tactics, what tactics? I think James Capon put it up on the screen a couple of seconds ago. You know, arguably our biggest week of the season, we had 3 games. We've scored 0 goals, Ricks. I mean, how can we legislate for that? How can there be a way forward under this current structure that we are right now? Surely something has to change, Rick, doesn't it? Right now, we've still got half a season to play for here. Well, it's still got half a season to play for where Spurs could still arguably qualify for the Champions League. I know it's going to make a lot of people laugh, but I'm just saying what the table suggests at the moment.
Bro, I mean, we've seen these same tactics, whether Conte was healthy or whether he wasn't healthy, whether he was at home or whether he was at the training ground, whether it's Stellini or whether it's... We've seen the same tactics, we've seen the same formation, we've seen the same try-old palaver, bruv. It's been dire. And I'm not just talking Eric. Do you know what I mean? Like, all right, cool. We won the first couple of games. What was it, 9 games? Or I don't know what it was within the first 10 games. Yeah, but we were still playing the same way. We still, and soon as the sides and those coaches that are out there worked out how we was playing, how to nullify us, that was it. Do you know what I mean? Like pre World Cup, I would have said Conte was staying. After the World Cup, the first couple of press conferences I heard from him, I was like, this doesn't sound right. This doesn't sound right. Whatever talks or talks that did happen or didn't happen during that World Cup tournament, he wasn't happy, and you could see. And I didn't want to admit it. Honestly, I didn't want to admit it. I was like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to. But if you look at it tonight, if those boys, if you as a manager and a serial winning manager can't get those boys up for a game like tonight, then when are they going to get up? What's the point in the last 12 games? I honestly, at this point, I really don't care. And I know, and that's sad for me to say. Do you know, like, you guys know me. You know how much you guys love the club as well. Do you know what I mean? But you know, I will always back us to win. I'll always back our manager. I'll always back us. I'll try and see the positive light and the little something that is the right thing to see. Do you know what I mean? All right, we're going in this direction. We're in the right direction. Right now, we're in no direction. Bro, we're lost. We're going round and round and roundabout, and we're still looking for the exit, and we ain't got a clue. If Conte's got a cheek to come out and say that tonight, my gosh, I'm done. I'm done, bruv. I'm done. AC Milan tonight, they were in second gear, bruv. They were in second gear. They didn't do nothing. Like Darren said, they were a poor side. They didn't really do nothing. All we had to do was impose ourselves on them. There was a lot of huff and puff, and what did we do? We blew ourselves down. We didn't blow anything else down. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what is going on, and I don't know what the right thing is to do. But if you sack him right now, and then you bring in the man that you really want, and if that is Poch, then we can speak about that. Do you know what I mean? But like, whoever you got lined up, because if he was going to sign, he would have signed by now. If he was going to trigger 12 months, we would have done it by now. But you know, we've got to this point, and maybe it's a good thing that we didn't trigger it, and maybe it's a good thing he didn't sign, because right now I don't want him. You're supposed to be a serial winner, bruv. You done nothing tonight. Your team done nothing against Sheffield United. Like Rich said on the last show, we should have rested the first team tonight so that we could play them in the Premiership. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what's the point anymore. Skippy was about the park today. Do you know what I mean? He wanted to do something. There was a lot of huffing and puffing, but there was nothing. It was just nothing. It was empty, bruv. And you say 2 shots on target in that whole game. It was 1 shot on target in the 90 minutes. I knew at 30 minutes it was going to be one of these games, and I was praying that I was wrong.
How worrying is that? How worrying is that? How worrying is that? The fact that you know it's going to be like that. But this is the reality. You know, you look at tonight, Dale, come over to you. You've listed out so many players there. That again, Rick, some of them have been really out of form. You know, Arnold Danjuma must be wondering why he left Merseyside when he was doing his medical, when he can't even get minutes ahead of Son, who, bless him, Sonny at the moment is on again, real off form. But, coming over to you, Dal, if that is Conte's last real stand at Spurs, then what a way to bow out. I mean, Rick's kind of questions it there. If he can't find the energy to get the players raised for a Champions League round of 16 second leg at home to, as we've said, a Milan side that are well organised but hardly exceptional, you do wonder how he's going to have the energy for a top 4 push in these final 12 games. And also, again, to ask you this question, Dow, does Spurs want to continue with this approach, which is no longer exciting and nor effective? I mean, what are we trying to achieve by persisting with this, Dow, if we are going to do that?
I think so many points to go through. So firstly, with Conte, if you can't get the players up for a game like this, like, how do you continue? Rio made a comment at the end of the game about team talks. This game here didn't require a team talk. You shouldn't need to get the players up for this game. You should have played the Champions League theme tune and said, get out there. That should be all you need. That should be everyone's go. And for me, the concerns are so deep when you think about that, because the players definitely went up for it. And Conte clearly couldn't get more out of them. We see how he manages at the touchline. He is screaming constantly. His arms are going. He's raring to go. He literally is coaching every kick of the ball. Right now, I'm looking at the situation we have at Spurs, and my look at it, the last few games of the season, I'm looking at it going, getting into the Champions League is detrimental to this project right now. And the reason why I say that is because Spurs, as Crack's quite rightly highlighted, is all about balancing the books right now. We're run as a business. And right now, our business model runs on, we need the Champions League to do X, Y, and Z for the business to be in this kind of profit margin, so they can keep doing what they're doing for this business. Right now, the business I'm concerned about is the footballing business. And right now, if we drop out the Champions League, we take that game, that competition out of our calendar. Suddenly, we have time to bring in whoever we want to bring in and actually think about the coaching, the elements about the game that we want to play. Conte, for me, from that interview he just done and the words he said, Cracks is right, Ricky's saying he's done with it. He sounded like he's done with it. He's like, fire me or I'm going to go at the end of the year. And right now, I say, God bless the man. He's gone through a lot emotionally. He's gone through a lot with his family life, his own personal health, and he's got a team that isn't performing the way he would like. It's hard for someone like that because he is a winner and he will be a winner in life. What happens at Spurs doesn't ruin his record.
Agree. He'll go and be a winner again.
Yeah,
he'll
go and be a winner elsewhere. Yeah. He'll continue on. Right now, my concern is what the vision is for our team right now. Because right now, we've got a squad that stepped out on that pitch and didn't want it. Whatever manager has been in control, they did not want it for themselves. They didn't want it for us as a fan base.
Can I ask you, Dale, right? Who is the decision maker when it comes to the manager? Is it Paratici? Is it Levy? Who is the decision maker when it comes to the transfers? Is it Paratici, Levy, or the manager?
I was going to go
Who is the decision maker, for the contract extensions and the players? Is it Paratici, Levy, the manager? We actually don't have a clue. We actually do not have a clue.
You're absolutely right, because when Crack said about having a structure where our business team, because let's be real, we have a fantastic business team at Spurs. What they've done as a business is phenomenal. When they brought in Paratici and Conte, we all was like, here's the vision. Great. Everyone else steps away. You guys do your business. Levy, you go to Bahrain. You go and get involved in Formula One. You get the deals. You make the money. You give it to Paratici. He goes off and buys the players and looks after the football world. But clearly, that has not been the case. We can see that Levy's involved. He's still pulling the strings there. Paratici is doing his job with his hands cuffed, possibly because of all the pending inquiries for Juve.
Quite literally, down on that. Yeah. Quite literally is.
Yeah. So there's so much of that going on. We're in a problem. So right now, we have no person in the middle. Levy is still in control. He's not a footballing man. So the problems continue. And that's why we're a club that we are making our own problems. Right now, it's clearly Levy who is in control of everything. Whether he wants to say it or not, that's my belief. I believe that Paratici is going to be phased out because there's too much stuff going on for him. We don't need that smell around our club, so he'll be gone. That then means Conte is not going to have his buddy. He will go, and that means there's an open door for somebody. I don't know who that somebody is, but all I want is our club to be able to be our club again. This is not the club that we all love. And it's sad to see our fan base given this, to be served up this, because this is not what we deserve. We deserve so much better.
We do. Look, we are expecting Antonio Conte's comments to be filtering through to us in the written presser. But what we are going to do, we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. For our watching audience here, we've got over 1,700 of you that are watching us live. Thank you so much, as always, for all of your incredible support for the show. We're joined by the wonderful Compère, Richard Cracknell, back on Last Word on Spurs. And we're also joined by the wonderful British actors, Darren Hartman and brilliant Ricky J. Norwood, who are trying to guide you through, offer you some therapy as to what we're witnessing with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club right now. Just to bring you that news that we had from Antonio Conte, the headline that we had from Antonio Conte that was coming through to us from Fabrizio Romano, who got the quote from Antonio upon the full-time whistle. And like I say, we are expecting Conte to be talking to the written press shortly. He said, I'm under contract at Tottenham. Then we will decide at the end of the season with the club. My contract expires in June. We will see. They might sack me even before the end of the season. Who knows? Maybe they are disappointed. So far, like I say, that's what we've had from Antonio Conte. We are expecting, as I said, that written presser interviews to come through just in a second. But before we do, as always, look, the show is made up by you wonderful viewers and listeners, and we always want to get you involved and bring some of your questions to the panel. Before we do, just to give you the stats breakdown from tonight, as painful as that is, and apologies again for putting you through this. So, on a night in which we've seen Spurs draw 0-0 at home to AC Milan, 9 shots for Spurs, 14 for AC Milan, the 2 for Spurs, 2 shots on target for Tottenham at home in a Champions League round of 16 game where they simply had to win. 2 shots on target to Milan's 3. They committed 18 fouls, some of them reckless, some of them poor, which led to Christian Romero seeing red. We will try and cover that during this show, as erratic as it's going to be. But maybe one of the most concerning aspects is you look at that XG there. I know Jason McGovern absolutely hates XG. 0.43. 0.43. And to make matters worse, over the 180 minutes of the tie, 0.9. How can any club, how can any football club that wants to be sustainable and actually want to try and win any kind of game, forget about trying to advance in a Champions League round of 16, ever try and do that if they're going to conjure up an XG like that? Now, look, guys, as always, you get your questions into us. We've had over 70 questions come in, statements as such. We are going to try and read out a couple here. I hope you appreciate tonight's one of those nights where we knew it was going to go ballistic, dependent on the result. Nathan Lynch says, I'm actually lost for words. This club has ruined me. No heart, no hunger. Absolutely speechless. Nikki at Highland Spurs says, where has our club gone? I know we wouldn't have won nothing when Poch was here, but I couldn't wait for the next game. Love the style and the identity of the club. We don't have the players to play 3-4-3 or 3-5-2. So why do we do the same thing every bloody week? Richie Moore says, no questions, just therapy, please, guys. Stormy Waters says, in Conte we trust. Well, maybe that's the only thing stopping me from saying he should go, as this manager merry-go-round will once again happen and go for lift-off. And Ben Clifton says, sack the management. Going out like this is completely and utterly unacceptable. Right. We have got some quotes through to us from Antonio Conte, so I'm going to steer this show back over to you, Rix, if I can. So Antonio, to the written press, has come out and said, I'm really sorry for the fans, but we cannot invent the win. It's important to know this. Hope for a miracle to find a trophy at the training ground. We have to build step by step. Today is not the day to speak about my future. I have a contract until the end of the season, and Tottenham know very well my thoughts. And at the end of the season, we will speak. There will be more to come from Antonio, but before I do bring, obviously, more to come, Rick, give me your thoughts to that initial words about there from Antonio Conte. He can't invent the win, he tells us, Ricks.
Is he joking? Is he trolling? Is he trolling us as a fan base? I don't know. That's it. I don't even know what to say. If somebody said something like that to me in a bar, I think I'd have to backhand a man. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I mean, you got to be joking, innit? You taking the Berties on a night like tonight. This is what you're gonna come out and say. Has this guy ever come out and taken responsibility for a loss or taken responsibility for poor negative tactics? Do you know what I mean? He can't wait to say, oh, I didn't tell him to play like that. Oh, I didn't tell him to do this. Nah. You see who said that there? Coward. There was a comment down there that said coward. And you know what? I never thought I'd say that about a serial winner, the Italian, the Italian stallion, Antonio Conte, coward. He's a coward. Man couldn't stand up. His staff couldn't stand up. Nobody stood up. You couldn't get. It's long, bruv. They are on something else. They're on something else. They're trolling us. They've been taking the Bertie since January. Time to get them out, bruv. Time to get them out. I didn't want to say this. I didn't want to be this way. I really did not. You know, when I saw this panel tonight, when I knew that, Ricks, when you texted me and said, all right, we're on with Darren, we're on with Crackers, I knew we was going to have a giggle tonight. That's why I was like, we're going to have a good game.
Shame, though.
We're going to have a giggle with it.
It's a tip-top panel without the performance and the result to match. I'll tell this to you, Ricks.
But at the same time, all of us, we're not just positive for positive sake. Do you know what I mean? If there's something to say, if there's something critical to say, then we're going to say it. And tonight, listen, the Conte project has failed. Perisic failed. Do you know what I mean? Like everything, the wing backs failed. You know, 5-2 failed. They've failed. And they can't be man enough to come out and say that they failed. They can't be man enough to come out and say that, you know what? All right, maybe we tried to fit a square block into a round hole and it didn't bloody well work. You failed and you're a coward. Time to go, bruv. Time to go.
There's more to come, and I'm not sure how this will be received by you, Dal. Conte says, in terms of history, these two clubs are on totally different levels. Milan won the Serie A title last season, whereas we scraped through to the top four by a miracle. If people think in 13 to 14 months is enough to become competitive, then they are completely wrong. Thoughts on those comments, Dal?
There's a term, it's a stinker. What he just said there is an absolute stinker. That's right, Cracks. Go make a cup of tea, my friend. It's a stinker. It's an absolute stinker. What I'm hearing, if I put my ears to that, I'm going, this is somebody who quite rightly is over. You know, when you've got that, reached that point and you can't do any more. All you do is just go, I'm done. And rather than him come out, as Ricky said, and be a man and just own it and just go, listen, it failed, the project failed. Now he's trying to go, oh, it's a miracle what we did last season. He was highlighting his great achievement, how great he was and what the team did and how they performed. So that wasn't true. We can't continue in that way that we played at the end of last season. So all of that was a miracle. It was a fluke. So therefore, come out then. Take the L and go, you know what? I'm out. Let me go. Because if Milan are this far ahead of us and what you did there didn't work and it was a miracle to make it even happen, then walk away from it now. And that's what I would say. Walk away. Take your bag, take Cellini, hug your boy, go back to Italy, hug your family, rest your body, rest your mind, get a new job. Inter will come back for you and get a job in the new year. But right now, as a Spurs fan, I'm embarrassed by those comments. I'm embarrassed because what he's saying there is an insult to the club that we are and the history that we have and the way in which we play football and the way in which we conduct ourselves. And if you don't want to be a part of it anymore, then you know what? Hit the road, Jack. Absolutely hit the road. That whole press conference thing right now, this is a man who, for me, is on the floor. So, yeah, sweep him up, guys. Sweep him up.
Hold tight. But do you know what? The first game, the way that he was praising the Italian league and the Italian press and the Italian intensity, and it means more in Italy. The way he waxed lyrical, I thought that was disrespectful back then. But I'm like, you know what? He's in his hometown. Let's leave it. Let's allow it. Do you know what I mean? But when you want to come out with stuff like that, you've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding right now. It's ridiculous. It's literally ridiculous. You know what? He needs to go, bruv.
For me, it's the timing, Richard, these comments. You know, many will argue that when he's suggesting that Milan and Spurs are on different levels, I mean, maybe you could argue that because of the fact Milan did win the title last season, Spurs did scrape fourth. But you've got to also understand, Rich, and you've said this a lot about reading the room and knowing the right time and the wrong time to express your views. Spurs have just gone out of the Champions League to a, as we said, organised Milan side, not an exceptional Milan side, and mustered just 2 shots on target. And as we've said, Spurs as a whole, they've scored 2 in their last 6 games in all competitions. In the 3 biggest games this week, they've not scored at all. How can you have the front right now to be bringing these comments out in the press when the fans are hurting, when we're lacking a direction, when we can't see a way forward? How can you do that to the fans? How can you?
It's awfully. I'm just trying to keep a lid on everything, Rick. It's awfully ham-fisted what he's had to say, isn't it? I'm trying to look through and digest what he said, and I don't know so much if he's having a go at us, the fans, and the club per se. I think he's like trying to tell us what he's got to deal with above him and how he's been backed and everything. But he's just gone about it in a terrible, terrible way. Look, in the old world of language, you'd say, be a man, wouldn't you? But I'll try and be a new modern man and new modern languages, and just be brave, be honest. If you don't want to be there anymore, then quit. If you've got something to say to the board, don't speak in riddles, which also takes everybody else down with it as well, which sounds like the actual club per se and the fans with all this nonsense about we can't invent wins. People need to be brave. So he needs to just go, right, that's it, I'm done, I'm out of here. If he had any backbone, he'd do that. If he doesn't, then Levy should have the backbone to sack him in the morning. Simple as that. Not have this like proxy war now going on of him saying stuff, tempting to be sacked, and them not sacking him. That's cowardice, It's absolute cowardice on all their behalves. And some people, like the football team, need to put their... Do you know what? The football team's a fair reflection of what goes on at the rest of the club. Nobody can put their foot on the ball and take charge. No, but nobody. It's this protracted row that's going on. It's like two sides in the trenches now, both waiting for the first real shot to be fired. And there we are in no man's land, all us fans. It's incredibly disrespectful to the fans of the club now. It really is. And somebody has got to either like pee or get off the pot here and stand up, be accountable, be strong, have a backbone, and make a decision. And that's either him go or us sack him. But he needs to take a good long look at himself, Conte, to be honest. He's talking because he's absolutely taking no culpability for what's gone on at all. Absolutely none. Yet he's paid £15 million a year to find solutions with the players he's got, and the board need to have done better with what they gave him, over the last two, 3 windows. No doubt. That Rick, it's just until somebody like puts their foot on the ball here, we're in for this. We're in for a torrid old time. It's politics. It's a football club having a political row, and we're the victims of it. We are the victims of it. And I don't like using that language because like wars and victims, there's real wars and victims going on. So
football in general,
it's just parlance. So before anybody goes, oh, you're speaking about wars and victims. Of course, football pales into way insignificance, but it's terminology to try and convey what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, guys, I'll be honest. I mean, Rick, we started this show and we're all angry. We've then heard those words, which have intensified the anger and frustration. I mean, based on what we've heard there, Ricks, can you see a way in which Conte's in the dugout for the weekend?
Nah, mate, no, I can't. I think you need to sling him out. Forget the dugout. Do you know what I mean? Sling him out because it's done. And you know what? This speech about AC Milan and them being title winners or whatever, he waxed lyrical again about. Do you remember Chelsea when I was on with you, Ricks, last year? How many times did we lose to Chelsea?
In the cup, saying how there's a different level
16
between
times back to back.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And it's the same speech. you know, where was the let's be brave, like Cracks was talking about, like the old Poch days. Do you know what I mean? And this is what we haven't seen at all. Us go on the front foot, us dictate the play, let them worry about us rather than we worry about them. And I think we worrying about them in every single game has come unstuck. Look at what happened against Sheffield United. You want to talk about invent a win? They had eight players that they didn't know who was going to play and who wasn't going to play. They had 3 kids on the field, and they still had a plan and a pattern of play and a way to beat us. I'm sorry, it is cowardice, and the more you give me more Conte quotes, the more wound up I'm getting. And I already saw a comment say, "Calm down, Rick." So I'm trying to breathe. I'm trying to bring back my tone.
I'm not sure it's you or me, Rick. I'll be honest with you. I mean, my blood is boiling as you, my friends. Yeah, I mean, again, it's highly emotional. Look, we all absolutely adore the club. We all love the club. We all want to see the club do well. I think, again, I speak for us here. Look, we're 4 very, very positive Spurs fans that always want to see the best in the football club. But at the same time, I think this is why we love Last Word on Spurs, and the reason why this was produced in the way it is, and we have the great guests that we have on with you guys. We've got wonderful viewers and listeners that are still tuning in right now. Over 1,700 viewers. We approach midnight. Thank you so much for all your support. We always try and tell it as it is. There is no dressing up. You know, there is no thing that's off limits. We do talk about the board. We do talk about the players. We do talk about, you know, the managers. And again, I think we have to make that point tonight where, you know, I'm not putting all the blame at Conte's door. I'm really not, because this is a combination of elements of factors that we've said before, Dal. The players, Romero tonight. Again, he's a disgrace. To lose his head.
Quickly, Rick, just very quickly, I saw a comment come through and saying, "Get a grip, it's just football." Well, look, I'm sure LBC's got a YouTube channel going on, or GB News or Sky News. So, like, you come to a football like YouTube channel, we're talking football. Like, why don't you pop off over to LBC's YouTube channel and then moan that they're not talking about the merits of 3-5-2
Can't we all do that and come back in the morning just for the sack show? Can't we just all do that? I think it'd be a lot easier.
Oh, man.
Jesus
Honestly,
Christ.
stop talking football on a football show, Rick.
I feel drained. I've done 52 minutes. I've not even discussed the actual game tonight. I feel drained.
There was nothing to discuss, Rick, was there?
Nothing.
Shocker.
It's the EastEnders sideshow, isn't it? Sorry, Ricky, mentioning EastEnders there.
That's all right, mate.
You're at a point now where you just feel it's at a point of not continuing, isn't it? You know, we were here under Nuno, and I don't see a way in which we can move forward. I mean, the argument will be for some out there, and please don't laugh when I say this, that, you know, going out of the Champions League probably does increase the likelihood of getting top 4 because we don't have the midweek games and the squad rotation. But when you watch that tonight, when you see that tonight, there can't be anything in your mind that gives you any kind of hope or belief or drive that Spurs could get into the Champions League again. When you look at the way in which we're being set up tactically, and you look at players like Romero, who, don't get me wrong, is a wonderful player, but loses his head like that. You know, in a game in which you need calm, composed minds, he's a young player. He is a young player. But at the same time, this is where, again, it comes into the coaching element of it. For someone to get hold of him and say, look, he's on a booking, control yourself. And it's happened so many times where everybody knows when he's on a yellow, that challenge is in him. And nobody stopped it. Nobody stopped it and allowed that situation to pan out. And look, I'm not saying at the point if Romero stayed on that Spurs would have won that game. No, because we're going to be able to say that at no point really did Spurs ever look like they were going to be winning that game. And that, I think, is the biggest frustration, that at no point tonight did Spurs even look like they were going to win the game. So I'm really struggling right now, to be honest with you, just to understand or even see a way forward. I've got to say that. But I mean, Dale, listen, you're a positive fan, and you tell me what you think on that.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just look at Romero, right? So I know a lot of people are going to want to shoot him down for what happened in the game for him. And I don't know if it was something that was said in the changing room, because the first 15, 20 minutes, our back three, anytime the ball came through, they were trying to go right through the back of AC Milan. And it made no sense to me. All 3 of them did it literally within 5 minutes of each other. Whack, whack, whack. I was like, what are we doing here? What is the game plan here? What is the methodology? Knowing that 2 of that 3 were on yellow cards and would be suspended. So, of course, both picked up the bookings. Now, for me, I'm watching that and going, that's in-game management. That's the player himself going, how am I managing this game for myself? And there wasn't a game plan between the 3. Also, Romero is young. He's a phenomenal defender, but he is young. There is no leader there in that back line today. There was no governor to go, I'm going to talk to you. Calm down. Take your foot off. Calm down. Think with your head. Come on. As Crack says beautifully, whenever we're here, football is played more up here than it is with your feet. And there was none of that today. Nobody was using this today. And that's worrying. These are professionals. These are pros. It's like, I know you mentioned beautifully saying it, myself and Ricky, actors. And it's like us stepping on stage and not knowing our lines. Going on stage and going, I'm just going to make it up. It doesn't make sense. You have to go in there with a game plan and then manage it. If someone drops a line, what do you do? How do you respond? You've got to be in the moment. Spurs were never in the moment. It was just watching it bypass them. And it is worrying. When we're talking about how do we get back in the Champions League, my mind goes, what do we want to be in it for? Because we're not building a side to win it. So we're just there making up the numbers for the financial gain. That makes no sense to me. I'd rather not be in it and build a team that will be capable when we are in it to actually be here going, we've got a chance of winning it. I don't want to make up numbers. We're in the Premier League making up numbers right now because we have no hope of winning that league. And that's the horrible place we are. We have to be realistic as a fan base and look at the vision that we can't see because we asked this before. What is the vision of this club? And right now, I don't know what it is. I don't think they know what it is. And the players don't know. Romero was a hothead today because that's his natural instinct. When there's no management, you can see he loses his head. You had a whole central midfield pairing of Skip and Højbjerg who were like, they had no runners at all today. There was no one moving for them. So the balls were kept being played. They would get it. They would hand it back to the centre half. I don't know what to do with it. Then you've got Son, who didn't look like he wanted to be in the game today. Kulicheski was trying, but he was running up against a brick wall and never saw a different way to go, how do I get around you? As we quite rightly highlighted, Vic said, the wing-back system doesn't work. Perisic, I don't know who he is. There's a guy who puts on his Tottenham shirt. I don't know who that person is. When he plays for Croatia, he looks amazing. And I think that is what we've got. And I think it's imposter syndrome. Like when they put on the Tottenham shirt, they will change. And is that Conte? Is it them? But they all have to take responsibility. We can't hold it on one today. This is not Conte's fault. This is not Romero's fault. This is not Kane's fault. Because Kane had a shocker as well today. People
nobody
go,
up today. Nobody played to their maximum. And that's what worries me, Dal. You know, these are the kind of performances that get the manager the sack. You know, these are the kind of performances that, you know, you go back and look at the history of Tottenham, the Nuno defeat, Man United, the Pochettino one at Sheffield United, where players stop running, they stop believing, they stop playing. You can't see any real tactics behind their game, any fluidity, any structure, any pressing. All those words I mentioned right there are in relation to when it's come to an end. And I hate to say, I hate to say it. It's reality. I can only see before my eyes what I'm seeing here. It feels like it's coming to an end. I mean, Jonathan Weeks says here, has this been the worst week ever as a Spurs fan? I think it's got to be up there, Jonathan. You know, you look at the fact that Spurs had the opportunity where you fast forward a week back, Spurs were top 4, FA Cup, and in the Champions League. And within 1 week, Spurs have lost to Wolves, gone out of 2 consecutive cup competitions, and you've had the manager come back. And it's made no difference tonight. If anything, I hate to say, well, if you look at that first half performance against Wolves and look at us tonight in what was a Champions League round of 16 tie, we look less motivated tonight than we did in the first half against Wolves. And that was with the manager back on the touchline. So if that doesn't tell you something is wrong, then alarm bells have got to be ringing. They really, really have be ringing. They have to be. I mean, Cracks, look.
See you tomorrow night, Rick, for the welcome Maurizio show.
Well, I mean, look, where we are right now, you know, you've got the South Stand that are singing Maurizio's name. You've had Danny Rose on Sky this afternoon pre-game saying Maurizio was one of the best managers that he's ever worked with. He would record the training sessions. He would be so meticulous in his detail. He then, again, at the end of the game, has now said to Sky, you can have the best house, but if there's no furniture in it, it's irrelevant. It's a subtle dig from Danny towards the board, but it's one that I think we all feel the same, that arguably under this current ownership, Spurs have always been 2 or 3 players short of actually needing what they need at the end of a transfer window. My question to you, and look, many will say it's disrespectful for me to be talking about other managers when Antonio Conte is in the job. I'll come back to you and say, I think it's utterly disrespectful the way Antonio Conte has talked down Tottenham tonight and previously. So I've got no hesitation at all about talking about other managers, and I won't hesitate in doing that. I want to ask you, Cracks, look, if Maurizio Pochettino is going to come back to Tottenham, what is going to change apart from the fact that that man is, it feels like us, absolutely in love with his football club and infatuated, and it's got him at the heart more than any other club that he's managed. And I know Paul O'Keefe put something brilliant up earlier in the week to say it almost feels like the two of them have been playing a game where ultimately they knew they were going to get back together. They've gone away. It's never been the same. They want to be reunited. But please tell me, under this current ownership for you, Cracks, what is going to really change if Maurizio comes back? Because I'm worried that the same things he got fed up with at the end are going to reach the impasse the second time around. Please tell me I'm wrong on that, Cracks. Please tell me you can see that any differently in your mind.
No, you're not, Rick. He might not be Mr. Right. I don't think anybody's Mr. Right, but he feels like Mr. Right now, doesn't he? Poch, to be honest, look, let's have it right. The biggest overriding factor here is the way the club is currently run. And until that changes, it doesn't matter who comes in. And there's cast iron proof of that with the 16, 17, 25 managers, including interims and people that have a go for half a day and then somebody else comes in. That bears that out. We've had every type of manager. We've had domestic hard men. We've had domestic arm round the shoulder men. We've had overseas disciplinarians. We've had overseas nice guys. Nothing's worked. We've had checkbook managers, project managers. None of them work. So until such times as they either change their way that they do things or get out of town, then nothing really changes. But like I said at the top of the show, I can't see them going anywhere really unless a big offer comes in. So like any game of cards, you've got to play the hand that's currently dealt you. So we've got 12 games left of this season and going forward. Poch knows the club. Poch loves the club. Yes, he's got failings, which from last time.
You can't hide away from them. Yeah, and you can't hide away from them as well.
No, you can't. You can't shy away from them. Has he learned from them? Who knows? Until such times. The cynic in me says that the club go after Poch and bring him back because they know it buys them another couple of years of running the current racket that they're running.
The same way it did with Antonio, the same way it did with Jose Mourinho. Same way, it's the only way.
Look over here, here's something new and shiny that you like. And we all go, yay. And he gets a couple of years, which in turn means they get a couple of years. So, look, I think it's inevitable that they're going to go with him just on that fact alone. But it might just give us a little bit of stability, if you like, and something for the players to buy into, the ones that do want to stay, and something for the fans to buy into. We was talking a while ago on the last show about Daniel Levy being able to do a fans forum. Can you imagine if there was one tomorrow night? It'd be awful, wouldn't it? I'm trying to avoid.
You couldn't do that. You couldn't do that in person. You'd have to do it in witness protection. I think you couldn't do that in person.
But he could do that under Maurizio. He went along and done one. So whilst they're running off, as I said before, building this and an ice rink round the Skywalk and the Mario Kart track and Beyonce on ice and anything else they want to be doing, that they can crack on with that, because what Pochettino will do will give us, the fans, something to buy into, a culture, that's more or less like the top of the club for us. He'll set a tone. He'll set a culture. Hopefully, they bring in some players that he now wants. Whether they do or not, I don't think they will, Rick. I think ultimately they will fail him. So nothing changes until everything changes. But, he'll be a fairly good port in a storm, wouldn't he? In this storm, this ENIC storm, he's a good bet port, isn't he? So that's the man. But that's the man for me. If they don't go for him, there's a few others out there that would like to see. Postecoglou's name at Celtic I've seen thrown in, but that's a little bit. It'll
be yours come the morning the way this ball's operating.
Perhaps Beyonce. Beyonce fancies it till the end of the season.
I've just seen, now you're saying Beyonce on ours, I've just seen they've had to now apply for another additional license now because they've run out of seats. So
well, there you go. I mean, she's got 5 nights at the stadium. Can we not just turn that into 12 nights, and then she could manage us in the afternoon, and then do a concert in the evening?
I've got to say, if I can, Cracks, I'm just gonna bring this comment up right now, which I know what infuriated you tonight mostly has obviously been Conte's comments, but I want you to take this one from Richarlison, who's been speaking to TNT Sports Brazil. And Rick, we'll get your reaction to this. Richarlison has allegedly said this season has sucked. That's from our number 9, £60 million forward.
And he's getting like 200 grand a week. And it sucks for him. You try spending out 200 quid a week if you're a plumber from Edmonton or something. That's when it sucks.
He left Everton.
Really sucks.
He left Everton, and it sucks at Tottenham. He left Everton in the relegation fight, and it sucks at Tottenham.
But he's right. This season has sucked. But when you're hearing players come out and say things like that publicly, how can this continue? How can it continue?
It can't continue like that, brother. Things have definitely got to change. And do you know what? To jump on the question that you asked, because it's simple. Look, Richarlison's talking the truth, and I'll get onto it. But to jump on what you're asking Cracks about there, look, that board, we know that board have failed for a long time. Not only the transfer window, but these last 4 years, they have failed because they tried to go win now, and it has failed. Everything that Pochettino did build, and that guy built a philosophy from the under 10s upwards. Cracks, everybody that knows will tell you he went to as many games as he could during the day. He'd done the first team training session, and then he would go to the under 21s, under 18s, under 16s, under 14. He would go to them all to try and make sure that there was a philosophy going the whole way through. As soon as you bring in a win now manager like Jose Mourinho, he destroyed all of that, and the whole philosophy was changed. So the last 4 years, going for a win now manager and not giving a win now manager a win now budget has failed. So the board has failed dramatically. And if they go back to Poch, they've got to admit that they've failed. They've got to humble themselves and eat humble pie and go, Poch, brother, we was wrong, and we need to admit that we was wrong, and we're going to listen to you. Because you know what? You was just saying there about Danny Rose's quote, where he's talking about the furniture. That ain't a Danny Rose quote. That's a Pochettino quote. That's a Pochettino quote. He said that about the stadium. We built a beautiful stadium, but...
And he called us a year, Rick, before the impasse, didn't he? He called it a year. He said he needed the tools.
Rick, you know one thing. Listen, Conte's come out. He's shooting from the hip, like literally saying "sack me." Richarlison's now come out. He's talking about what he's talking about. Glenn Hoddle and Peter Crouch told the club what they was tonight. Danny Rose has done the same. Every fan of this club should now be hearing from one man, and that's Daniel Levy. Now, look, where is he in all this? He should be out fronting up now. He runs this club. Why ain't he out coming and going, right, I'm the sheriff in town? Because it's like the Wild West at the moment, isn't it? I'm the new sheriff, or I'm the old sheriff, and I'm going to start laying down some laws. Where are they in all this? there'll be deathly silence once again from them. Once again.
Yeah, I've got to say,
Cracks, I want to
it's a
hear from Joe
dereliction.
Lewis. Forget Levy and his annual palaver and his PR statement. I want to hear from Joe Lewis
don't
why
even
he
think
has
he
kept Daniel Levy in the job for so
this
long.
guy has not spoken for 20
I don't-
years. You won't get
I
out of Joe
don't
This is
think
what
he
I'm
even
saying.
exists.
Yeah.
He
Can I
don't even
Dal,
exist.
Yeah, Dal, I want to bring you in. Look, just to give you some context behind that comment from Richarlison. So he was talking, as I said there, to TNT Sports in Brazil, where he was criticising his lack of minutes and went very heavy on how bad the season has been. But the main headline quote coming out of that is, this season has sucked. You've got the manager coming out and talking down to us fans. You've got players coming out saying how much they are not enjoying their current season. Who fixes this, Dal? Is it Maurizio Pochettino? And if it is Maurizio Pochettino, what I want to ask you, Dal, is there still 8 or 9 players there from when Maurizio left the club? So is that still enough there to get the players and everybody back focused when you've still got an element of those players that failed him from 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago? 3 of those 4 players were actually in the lineup for Colchester in the cup we can't get mistakenly from away. Ridiculous we're even in this situation.
I think looking at the picture right now, there's a number of things that are not working. I think Richarlison, I respect him for going, it sucks right now, because it does suck right now. And I think every Spurs fan watching today's game, as managers, as we all are, every fan's a manager, we would have all made different changes that weren't made by Conte. We would have all done things in a different way. And we probably will find, if we did it around this forum and around others, we'd all probably come to the same conclusion. We would have had Richarlison on early. Why was Son doing X, Y, and Z? There were so many things. That the substitution when Perisic came off and you brought Pedro Porro on, you put Emerson Royal at left wing back. It's like, why put him there? Why don't you just put Davis there to start with? Put Emerson in the back. Like, there's so many things that we could all see bad management. And I think if you're looking at who could save us now, I think it's looking at the tools that we have and going, what manager would be best to help this work? And of course, you look at somebody like Poch, he's great at man managing, but also what Poch needs, he needs time as well. I think it's a case of writing off this season. I think it's a case of going, I don't care about the next 12 games. If we're looking at Poch coming in now, then we're looking to use these 12 games for him to do an evaluation of this squad. Who do I want? And if Paratici is sticking around and going, your job is to do what? Help me understand what you do. Is your job to get these players in and out for me? Okay, cool. Here's the ones I want out. Here's the ones I want to keep. Don't tell me at the end of pre-season, I have still got the players I don't want here and I haven't got the players I want. Because all that stuff there is about being accountable. That's what Spurs is not doing. We're not holding people accountable. Someone made a great comment of going, where is Paratici? I know he's got the issues with Inter and all of that, Juve, sorry, and all their issues. But if you're still employed by us and on the payroll, you should now be vocal. We should have a statement from you. This needs to be said. Levy needs to be involved. Everyone right now at Spurs is hiding behind the shambles that is our football club right now on the pitch. And it can't happen anymore because who can save us? The players have to save themselves. Richarlison is right. If he's not on the pitch, it is a shambles for him. It is shocking because he's watching going, I can't help. When I want to help, I come on the pitch and I'm trying too hard because I get short amount of minutes. I'm starved of game time. He came back from a phenomenal World Cup. Confidence up here and then got thrown on the bench. That was the management that the manager did to him. You've got players that are there going, I want to play a certain way, but I can't play that way. That's not the system. So you change the system to accommodate your players. What Conte has continually tried to do is make the system work. We've all said it's not worked. We don't have the squad for it. And because he's not willing to change that system, it's all failing. Right now, we just let it go. Just say the season ended today. Let's say it ended right now.
It feels like it has now. It does feel like it has.
But the thing is, it's ended for our fans. But for the business side of Spurs, they're still going, get top 4, that's where the money's at.
Yep.
And for me, I'm going, why do we want the Champions League? Because as a football club, we're not winning it.
No.
So we might as well use this time to build the club. Look at the youngsters we've got. If we bring Poch in, Spence, what a player. He comes back into the fold. We suddenly go, we've got the left back coming over. He would come into the fold. Suddenly, we'll lick our lips at looking at a Skip and going, now you've got someone who's going to coach you. We haven't got a coach. We've got a short stay manager. We need coaches now. We need to build a legacy, build a brand. And you know what? People laugh and people joke. You look at what's happening at our neighbours, it's because they took time to build something. We've tried to shortcut that system. We've tried to jump in midway. You can't do that. Football don't work like that. We're not going to, unless you're doing what Man City and Chelsea do and you throw your whole bag at it. And we're never going to be that club. So if we're not, we've got to take time and we've got to build sensibly. That's my vision. We need to end the season now and just go with a vision, but someone needs to tell me what it is.
I agree. Look, I mean, I've got to say, Antonio I think has really hurt a lot of us tonight with his comments. I think a lot of us don't necessarily disagree with his terminology, but for me, the biggest thing is the timing of the comments. I think to do that on a night where, as I've said, we've bowed out of the Champions League really on a limp with 2 shots on target. And look, just to remind Antonio, his own personal record in the Champions League, his record with Juve, Chelsea, Inter and Spurs stands at 41 games, 15 wins, 14 draws, 13 losses. The furthest he's got into the competition was the quarterfinals in 2012, 2013 with Juventus. So what I would say is that he's been very quick to downplay Spurs' history, to downplay maybe what we are as a football club. Mr. Conte, you've got your own record there that needs some convincing in the top tier. So before you come at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, maybe look at yourself a little bit. And I mean that genuinely. I've got no doubt, and I've said this before, I had no doubt when Jose left Tottenham, he would go on and win trophies. I've no doubt that Conte will go on and win trophies. But the thing is, Spurs will be here long after these managers. The fans will be here, and we will win again. I'm sure we will win again, as long as it's been as painful as it is. And I always say that as much as it's always been tempting to think about switching allegiances, which my family wouldn't allow me to do, I've always felt that winning at that time will be even sweeter. And I genuinely thought this season it would be the FA Cup, which is probably the hardest thing to bear, is that how this last 7 days has disintegrated in front of our eyes. It's really, really hard to try and conjure up any kind of understanding or feeling right now as to how this has happened. But it's football. We will come again, but it's tough. It really, really is tough. Look, we are going to go for our next break of the show. We're very conscious that we are approaching midnight. We have got to look ahead to Nottingham Forest, which feels like a long, long time away. But it is coming round the corner. It doesn't feel like a night in which I should really be just talking about the guys about the lineup for this one, which I won't do. But I am just going to bring up the team for tonight just to talk you guys through it very, very quickly. We had the one change from Molineux. The back three was set as it was with Wolves. Eric Dyer, of course, suspended it. Granted, Ivan Perisic another start at left wing back with Ben Davies already indisposed behind him. We had Emerson Royale coming in for Pedro Porro on the right. Conte did go with the experience of what he could do in midfield with Oliver Skipp, Emile Højbjerg, and meaning obviously Pat Matasar dropped down to the bench. We had the favoured three of Harry Kane, Dejan Kulusevski, Heung-min Son. Preferred to Richarlison, who's made his comments very, very clear tonight. He says, it sucks this season. That's direct comments from Richarlison. You look at that Spurs team there, and again, look, you look at it, it's not the greatest on paper. Romero, obviously, being sent off as well. Forster in the back line there. Longley, Davis, Emerson, Skipp, Højbjerg, Perisic, Kulusevski, Kane, Son. The bench of Austin, Whiteman, Sanchez, Tanganga, Porro, Sarr, Devine, Lucas, Richarlison, Danjuma. Poor Danjuma, man. He just can't seem to get any minutes at all. What was the purpose of this loan? It does feel like very much it's been like a club loan. The same as Spence was a club signing, because he just simply can't seem to get a player. I think, again, you look at tonight, the rigidness of Tottenham, the lack of attractiveness on the eye, to have to continue watching this and expect anything different is very hard to believe anything's going to massively change. 4 occasions tonight, Spurs overhit good set-piece opportunities. Heung-min Son put a direct corner out for a goal kick. You can't tell me that these players are playing with any sense of belief or confidence that something's going to change. Rich, before we look ahead to Forest, the manager has come back tonight. He came back 2 days ago in the building. You would think that would automatically give the players a lift. But please explain to me how we looked more limp tonight in a Champions League round of 16 second leg at home at our stadium with our fans, when there was the 45 minutes against Wolves away in which we put in a better performance. Please tell me the parallel and context between these two, how we're judging this right now.
Because they're not playing for him, Rick. They play within themselves. They play with a fear when he's on the touchline. And I've seen it when I've been at the Lane, players down that touchline constantly looking over their shoulder at the bench and you know, Conte screaming and shouting at them and telling them. And, you know, we saw, I think it was actually Dan Juma when he came on, had a space to run into, stopped and checked. He checked his run. It told John 5 there on the screen, says they play with chains on. And that's exactly what Glenn Hoddle said tonight. They are playing with chains on. Sonny's not a terrible player. He's just playing for a manager he doesn't believe in, that's clipped his wings. Richarlison's not getting any chances. You know, as Hartman said, we all seen what he'd done in the World Cup. Dan Juma's another player. Basuma's another player. These are all players that want to get on the front foot and want to play and want to come out and want to be progressive. And he's clipped their wings. He's clipped their wings. And he's not playing these players like Dan Juma, like Spence, who's now gone off out on loan, because it's all part of this proxy war that he's having with the board. I'm not having players bought for me. You're not telling me I'm not going to play them. You know, so I'm hopeful, Rick, that if somebody comes in with a clean slate, you know, and gives everybody a clean slate and plays some progressive football, we will see an upturn in performances overall and individually. But you have to temper that with some of those players. Their race is run. They're done. They've been there far too long. But until windows open and you can replace them, you've got to try and make them feel 10 foot tall, Rick.
This is the worry, though, Rich. Can I, Rich, come back in on this, right? You're saying there, some of these players that done, these are the same players that arguably now are going to bring Maurizio back for, that played under him. Ben Davis, Davinson Sanchez, Hugo Lloris, Harry Kane, Heung-min Son. There's more. I'm sure you'll find more names at me. Eric Dyer.
Yeah.
Well,
most of that list can go, Rick. But you know, that has to be during windows, doesn't it? And then it's over to you, Daniel Levy, where you have to maybe wipe your mouth of some of those players
the same way Arsenal did.
Think they've got
the same way Arsenal
did. Exactly what they did. I hate Arsenal, obviously, but I don't hate what they've done. I want my club to do what they've done. So I don't hate them for doing them. I actually quite admire them for doing it. And that might get me some pelters in the comments. So be it. See, look, big broad shoulders, I don't care. But that's what we should be aiming for. That's a club on a similar financial footing to us, running a similar way financially. So it is doable. You don't need state money, oil money, this money, that money, really. You need to build a culture and you need to build a togetherness. You need to have a bravery and you need to just wipe your mouth of some of those players that have flotsam and jetsam at the moment. But, you know, this is what I was saying. These are all these cogs turning in the same direction, aren't they? Managers, like, you know, being brave and a board backing that manager, players buying into it, fans buying into it. Everybody has to go together. Rick, you look like there's a comment that's just come in.
Yeah, there is.
Has he gone?
Can I just say, no, he hasn't, but can I just say that for those that listen back to this in the morning and think, why do the quotes come out halfway through the show? I have to remind you that obviously we do record live, so we only can react to what comes in. More from Richarlison. This is Richarlison's words to TNT Sports. This season is shit. I was coming off 2 good wins against West Ham and Chelsea, and suddenly he, in relation to Conte, puts me on the bench. I didn't understand. Now, look, whatever you think about anyone, how does a manager then carry on in a job where players are publicly coming out and talking like that about a manager? Boys,
well,
I know you all look lost for words. I mean,
I don't think Conte's bringing donuts into training tomorrow morning, is he? He's not going to stop off for
Be lucky to get in the bloody training. Be lucky to get in the bloody training ground at this rate, I tell you.
Let's have a chat. Well, he's right, isn't he? Because he's just like he's served him up. So at least somebody's now had the backbone, Rick, to come out and not like use, convoluted language or being cryptic. He's actually stood up and been accountable and said what's what. Now, like, I want Conte to do the same, and I want Levy to do the same, and I want everybody to just put their cards on the table, man up, for the want of a better phrase, and just be a little bit honest and just sort this shit show out, which it is. People have now got to take a little bit of accountability for themselves and say, not good enough. That's not good enough. I've not done this good enough, well enough. You've not done that well enough, and find a solution to it. These are people on millions of pounds a year that should be able to find a solution without it coming to this. It's the Wild West tonight, Rick. It's a straight shootout.
I'm terrified to look down at my phone as to what comes next, and that's why I know we're constantly approaching midnight. We have got to quickly do Forest and wrap up, but I don't know what's going to come next here. Whether it will follow with Antonio's P45, but I have got a horrible feeling we are going to be back probably tomorrow. I mean, Rick, those comments there from Conte, I will come over to Dal next. If you're going to talk like that, surely he's gone, isn't he? I mean, I know I've repeated it myself so many times now, but I just can't see how you're going to be talking about that, about a manager and see him next day in training and expect to give you everything.
Conte has thrown majority of those players in the dustbin with these comments. He's thrown our shirt in the dustbin with those comments. He spat on the cockerel and rubbed it into dog doo-doo with those comments. So now the handcuffs are off. So now someone like Richie is like, you know what? What is this about? You know what? I'm going to come back and throw it back. He's absolutely right, because this is indicative of what's been happening throughout the season. If somebody came in, Brian Hill, when he came in, he started doing well. As soon as he does well, take him out the side. Let's put somebody else in. Do you know what I mean? Like Richie, he was building, take him out the side. It's happened. So the way that some of these players have been disrespected, Basuma, he destroyed all of Basuma's confidence. Do you know what I mean? Spence, what did he do to Spence? Do you know what I mean? Like when we were sitting there praying for a right wing back at that point to come on and just give us something. Conte has done it week in, week out this season. And I think the players have had enough. So it's untenable now. He has to go. And he's got to get his P45, not even in the morning, right here, right now. Levy should be on a plane back to see him, say, no going to sleep tonight. I'm coming to see you. I'll meet you in the hotel lobby. Straight up and down, bruv, because it's gone beyond a joke. And that tonight has been the breaking point, not just for us fans, but for all of those players as well. When you can see it, Richie is a litmus paper of that squad right there, and how they're thinking and how they're feeling, not only with what's gone on and the way that they've been treated, but then it shows you there was no belief in these tactics. There was no belief in this way of playing or these patterns of play. What was the use in that damn pre-season in South Korea doing 118 laps up and down? For what? It was supposed to be this time that fitness was supposed to come through. It's supposed to shine through at this point right now. Yeah, that's why they went so hard. That's why they've done it in intense heat. That's why but it hasn't. It hasn't, has it? What has it done? It's killed everybody of confidence and belief and want for this club. And so for me, bruv, with Richie saying that's Conte. That's Conte done from a player's point of view as well. Yeah. So he has to go now.
I will say, look, there's certain things in the season that you can't legislate for. He has lost 3 close friends. He has had a major operation. I think, as we've said consistently throughout this show, coming over to you, Dal, look, it's not all one man's fault here. The blame has got to be apportioned between the manager, the board, the players. But it's very, very hard right now to see a way forward. I am going to end this segment before we look ahead to Forest. I mean, look, I would say to you, we'll look ahead to Forest tomorrow when it's Conte being sacked, but we don't know that yet. The worst thing you could ever do is try and predict Tottenham. You can't predict them, so I'm not going to try and predict them. But just to come over to you, Dal, I just want to send this closing segment to you. This is from Antonio Conte, who was asked if he could speak to Daniel Levy any earlier than what is planned in relation to his own personal future? And he said, no, I think the situation is really, really clear. It's 1 year and 3 months as I've been the coach of Tottenham. I always say the same things. We need time and patience because in this moment, we don't have a solid foundation to be competitive, to fight to win, in my opinion. We try to work to understand which are the right players to continue to create a solid foundation and the transfer market to try to find the right solution to improve the team. But at this moment, the club knows very well, which is my thoughts. And I have a great relationship with my chairman, with Fabio Paratici, but it doesn't mean that I don't tell them which is my vision. You understand? Then we will see. Now we have to finish the season. I have a contract until June. I am happy to work in Tottenham, but at the end, we will make a decision, okay? But the club knows very well which is my vision, which are my thoughts about the situation. If it was right to close it on that segment of comments there from Antonio, what do you take away from that, Dow? And is the end fairly near on the basis of what we've heard from Richie in the past 20 minutes on this show?
I think what Conte is saying there is that his vision is not being matched. He kept using that term. I've given them my vision. I've been here a year and 3 months, and this is the vision I've given them. With the transfer window, it's not stable. He's not happy with. So he's not happy with his squad. That's what he's saying. He's not happy with how the transfers are going. He's told them, and he's not happy. He's not happy with how the team performing. He's not happy. So basically, he's not happy. So right now, if we're going to match his vision, he will stay. We as fans can't see us ever matching the vision that he wants because clearly he's going to want a lot of money and a lot of players in and out. So that's not going to happen. So right now we're in a horrible situation where we're stuck in absolute limbo because it sounds to me like the board are not going to fire him. It sounds like the players, or let's just talk on what we've got. Richarlison has come out and spoke, and I'm glad he's done that because he's been a player who has been treated badly, and he said how he feels. What I would hope, if no one's getting set tomorrow, if that's the case, I would hope that tomorrow Conte and Richarlison have the head-to-head in the training ground in front of everybody, and that fire goes in everybody. Everyone starts speaking because sometimes it takes one person to light it up, and then everyone starts speaking, and then that passion comes out, and you go, "So where's that passion been on the pitch, boys? Oh, I'm upset about X, Y, Z. You said blah, blah, blah. I feel shackled. I feel this. I feel that." Well, then go and show me. Because ultimately, we keep going back to, if we want to blame someone, everyone has to take their portion. The players have to take their portion today. Because, yes, it does feel more like Chuckle Vision right now. It's to me, to you, to me, to you. I'm feeling the same vibe. And right now, the people who are in the middle being hit by the ladder going, to me, to you, it's the fans. Because the players ain't owning it, the manager ain't owning it, and the chairman ain't owning it. Someone needs to own it because, boy, this is a madness. It is just a madness.
It is a madness. It really, really is. Look, I mean, what more can you say?
And it's never too late for me. I'm always here. Never. I love this team, but this club is driving me bonkers.
People make laugh. I said the best break I ever had was that World Cup break. I would have, honestly, for all those podcasters out there, I would champion for mental health that break. It was the best break I've ever had away from this bloody football club. It came like a vengeance. You know, I remember during lockdown under Mourinho when they said, we need the football back. When Mourinho came back, they said, take the bloody football off. It's killing us. Take the football back and know the season. It feels like that feeling again. It really, really does. Look, we are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners on audio. For our watching audience here, we've still got 1,400 of you watching us live. We're joined by the superb Compère, Richard Cracknell, and the brilliant two British great actors here in Darren Hartman and Ricky J. Norwood, who have given you the therapy tonight of what we're seeing before our eyes. You're listening to it before your eyes. I will again apologise for the fact that I have to make this clear. We do record live. So hence the reason why you haven't got, unfortunately, Richie's comments at the very start of the show and why they are all the way through. And Rebecca makes a point here. Would it be Last Word on Beyonce? Look, this show could be anything at any point right now. It's come to a point where it is just an absolute laughing stock.
I'm enjoying you listening to this before your eyes. That's fantastic. You should be in the circus if you can do that.
Listen, we are in the circus. This is a circus. This is like you say, a clown's car on fire. It's anything you've said, what it is.
Do you know what my dream is? Saturday, but we do actually have Beyonce managing us for Forest. It'll either be a sweet dream or a beautiful nightmare. Come on. Don't write yourself.
Last one on go-karting. I'll tell you what. Thank you so much, Nick, for that comment there. Lovely comment there from Nick. It's showing the dedication of the fans, including last one as well, hasn't been matched on the pitch. Like, I think we all feel the same. We all want the best, but unfortunately, we're not getting it. I mean, again tonight, we look at reckless actions. As we've said, like with Romero, for example. Clearly a talented player in there, but a real lack of discipline that you feel needs to be set from the coaching staff. But like a lot in the club, when you've got a lack of direction at the top, and then from the manager and then the players, how do you expect anybody to have a discipline about them when, quite frankly, the whole club is a mess and you've got a player that's been signed for 60 million in the summer coming out and publicly throwing the manager under the bus? And I'm not saying Richarlison is wrong in what he's saying, but you have to wonder how there can be any kind of a comeback for any manager when you've had a player so publicly come out and slate their current manager. Nicky says, Richie starting Saturday then. Look, nothing would surprise me about this football club. It feels absolutely insane right now to say, let's look ahead to Forest, because I don't see how we even look beyond tomorrow right now. I mean, let's just end it with this at the moment. We'll maybe get predictions for Forest. Cracks, ahead of Saturday, do you see us being here tomorrow, later in the week, recording the end of a manager's reign, and then something along the lines of a manager coming in, or Ryan in charge for Forest? What do you see happening between now and the end of the week ahead of Forest?
You can't even predict what's going to happen. I mean, there's as much chance of him being now on the touchline as there is him not, and Ryan Mason being appointed on Friday, and then all of a sudden him being unappointed, and I don't know, the manager of Chip King comes in and
what do you think? What do you think I'm going to say to you, Cracks? I've got more.
Go to bed. You look tired. No, you can't.
I've got more. I've got more from Richarlison.
Stop it, Tottenham.
Stop. So, Richarlison, on the finale of that final part of that interview, said, yesterday they told me to do a test so I could start AC Milan, and then today I was told I was going to be on the bench. I just can't understand it. I just felt I should have played, but I don't want to cry about this anymore. It's just so public. It's beyond embarrassing, Cracks, isn't it? It's just beyond embarrassing.
I don't know. Perhaps it just sounds like it's like just tear the whole lot down. It's probably, it's that house of cards, isn't it? And Richarlison's coming and he's taking that middle one right out, and the whole lot. It should just all come crashing down from this. There'll probably be a diplomatic smoothing of it tomorrow, of the Brazilian or Portuguese to English translation wasn't quite what he said, and it'll just be all wiped over. And
translate that back into Brazilian after this.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Perhaps Richarlison will be in charge on Saturday. I don't know.
Honestly, nothing would surprise me. You think I'm joking? Nothing would surprise me anymore. I tell you. I just don't know. All I know, Rick, is like one of the chaps put up earlier that the bus that comes down from the Worcester Supporters Club, like, they've got an all-day round journey. Do you know what I mean? And the boys and girls that come from South Wales supporters clubs and people that come down. Bless Jan as well there. Jan, bless her.
Yeah,
walking down in the rain. Bless Jan.
There's a chap, John, that lives in Sunderland. He's home and away all the time from Sunderland. Everybody like that just deserves better. And it's got to a point now where all you can really do is just like, have a bit of a laugh like this, because if you don't, you'll just cry, you'll just break down. And, what an embarrassment for Daniel. If I was Daniel Levy, I'd be embarrassed tonight that like four chaps are just sat round like discussing this and literally having to take the mickey out of ourselves, like to try and get through it. Gallows humour, All that's left for our season now is the hope that West Ham get relegated and Arsenal bottle like the league, that sort of just hoping. It's all pinned on Schadenfreude now. That's our only cup. And if I was Daniel Levy and the board, I'd be utterly embarrassed that a club that's built a stadium of that size and that looks like a huge club has now reduced to that. Looks like this. I'd be mortified if I was him. Absolutely mortified. If you're any sort of a Spurs fan, I'd just be looking at myself and going, what's going on here? You know, it's like the manager's talking in riddles and begging to be sacked. My star strikers, calling the club all the shits under the sun to Brazilian TV. Danny Rose is laughing at me on telly. Glenn Hoddle and Peter Crouch are quite diplomatically, and Jermaine Janus saying you need to do better. And we're all sat round talking about Beyonce being the manager on Saturday. I'd be embarrassed if I was him. I'd be utterly, utterly embarrassed by it. I'd be out in the press tomorrow owning my shit. I really would. But Willie, let's see.
What? Just finally, Cracks, on Forest, what do you see happening there? I think he thinks I'm trolling you at the moment now. We're going to be back, I'm sure, before Forest at this rate. I don't know.
I tell you, the only thing I can see going on with the Forest is me taking myself off to it with a revolver and a shot of whiskey. Other than that, Rick, I don't know, mate. I just don't know. I really don't know. I'll give you a prediction.
You know what?
We could win 7-0. We could lose it 7-0. There you go. Nicky Wallace has called it. Richarlison starts and bags us an hat-trick. Job done.
Just when this show you thought couldn't kill you, and you're on for this. I thought Rick thought he was finished after the 14 Chelsea defeats in a row. No, Rick, you were coming back for this one.
Mate,
Rick, you know what? Rick, what's going to happen this week? What's going to happen the rest of this week? To close it on this, what's going to happen the rest of this week?
You know what? It reminds me of our friend Lee McQueen, and he calls it the crazy train, but literally it's not the crazy train anymore. It's the lunatic asylum train. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what type of train it is because it doesn't run on railway tracks at all. So I don't know what's going on. And it does remind me, right, of this Greek philosopher that my missus told me about. When I go through, she hears my rants, and sometimes she hears and sometimes she doesn't. But she goes, you know what? It reminds me of, there's this Greek philosopher called Sisyphus. And the only way I remember it is because it sounds like syphilis. All right. But that's a different thing. But there's Sisyphus who pushed the rock all the way up the hill, only for when it to get to the top, it rolls the whole way back down again. And that's Tottenham. Every time we roll that ball up the hill, as we're about to get to the top, as we're about to see the pinnacle, it will roll the whole way back down again, and we'll have to start again. So I ain't got a clue what's happening at Forest on the weekend, Ricks. I haven't got a clue. This lunatic train and this type of ball, I ain't got a clue, mate. But like we say, there needs to be another show with, Conte's been sacked or with appointed somebody else, and because it's clear that we need a new direction, we need a new voice, we need new ideas, and we need somebody that the players can believe in as well as us as the fans, because it's clear, it is very clear. Conte sat at his stall. He doesn't want to be here. He's doing us a favour. He's always looked down at us. Look at his quotes from when he was Chelsea manager. We're a tiny, small team, and we might have won something back in the day, but we're tiny. We don't do nothing. And every time we come up against a big boy, he lets everybody know how tiny we are, and I'm done with it. And the boys are done with it, and the players are done with it, and the fans are done with it. Everybody's done with it. So until there's change, bruv, I don't care what happens against Forest. And that's how that's where I'm at. I don't care. Do you know how angry I was today? Oh my God.
This is the angers I've seen you on the start of a show. Yeah, it is the angers I've seen you, Rick. I mean, I know Dale's probably taken a lot of phone calls from you in the past
Yes.
Yeah, but I think this is, definitely the angers I've seen you. Maka, bless him, just probably back from the game, or on his way back from the game. Honestly, it's a difficult night. And one man, I know Maka, bless him, he put out beforehand how we should all be together and how we should all believe. And you know what? You boys will relate to that. He's such a positive fan. He's one that, wears his heart on his sleeve. It's a shame. If only players played with some of the belief and conviction as some of our wonderful guests did, then I tell you what a team we would be. Richie to start Rick's against Forest?
Listen, let him start. But do you know what it feels like, Ricks? Boys, it feels like we've been duped. It feels like we've been lied to for the last, I don't know however since Conte's been in charge. It feels like a big ass lie.
Rick's, in reality, we have been. In reality, we have been. We've almost, as we've seen coming over the Dow here, we have hired these win now managers But however you dress it up, we've not given them the win now tools to get the job. So this is, I think, the frustration where with Jose and even with Antonio, we all believed, Dal, that when we appointed these managers, there was going to be a change at the top where we was going to fully go in 100%. And under Jose, for example, Jose wanted Skriniar, he got Joe Rodon, he got Carlos Vinicius, he wanted a different striker, he got Joe Hart. I mean, you look at Antonio, it's been clear throughout, clear in that first, he didn't want Jed, whatever we think about Jed Spence, I'm sure he'll go on to be a great talent. He wasn't what Conte wanted. Dan Juma can't have been what Conte wanted. He's not had a minute. So I do feel for some of the managers when at the same time they've not been given what they want. But then I also think that I also look at the fact for me that they've got to be getting more out of what they've been given. And I simply haven't seen that, Dow. And this is the thing where I'm so torn because my anger and frustration is, of course, with the manager. But my anger and frustration also with the board now. I don't think they've got enough chances left now to turn us around. I have never seen Spurs this disconnected from this board. Cracks, you've been a fan for God knows how many years, bless you. I don't think you've ever seen a point now. I'll let Dal come in here first. I'll go to you, Cracks. I've never seen a point at Dal where it is as disconnected as what it is right now. To the point for me, Dal, of absolutely no return. I don't think even Maurizio coming back resolves this unless Daniel talks to camera or someone from the board talks to camera and explains the decisions that they've got wrong and what they're going to do to put them right. And that's for me the only way in which you'll get even a small, minute percentage change their mind. And I'm not sure even they will now because it's gone on for far, far too long now.
Yeah, it has gone on for far too long. And this is why this is a huge problem because the identity of our club has disappeared. The history of the club has disappeared. And like you say, when you go down the road of quick fix win now managers and you don't fully invest in that system, of course, that's against the Tottenham system that we've always had. So now you're trying to do a new system, as Cracks always highlighted when he talks about this, is about buying a Bentley and putting Ford parts in it. It just doesn't make sense. And our system in terms of backing managers with our structure has never, ever, ever, ever made sense. So it's always going to be problematic. It's always going to fail. It's a system that is not been made to work. So ultimately, as the fans, we suffer because we're watching it. We're being told, yes, we're going to back this manager. We're going to win things. We get excited about that. Then we see the same pattern in front of our very eyes. Managers not being supported, players not being good enough, systems not working. But also the highlight is win now managers are not coaches. They're not there long term. They're not there to invest. They're not there to build. So what happens is, like we saw today, when their one tactic or their one idea isn't working, they fold their arms and they just go and sulk. And that's what Conte is doing right now. He's sulking. So it's not worked. I'm upset. Levy now is up there going, I want the big sell because that's what ultimately Spurs are being built now for, the big sell, so they can go look at this magical machine that we have, buy it for X amount of billions, and they will make so much money. That can't happen unless we're being spotlighted and people can see it. So it's on a global market. You get that by being in the Champions League. So it's a horrible system that as fans, we are stuck in the middle being tortured. And that's what it is. We're the middle one that no one cares about. No one actually cares about what we want. So right now, Rick, you're exactly right. Somebody needs to step forward and talk. But you know what, Rick? It will never happen because we are the small pawn in this big game. Conte is not going to be sacked. We're not going to be back this week. Conte is not going to be sacked because financially, it won't make sense to leave in the money men. They'll sit together and go, there's only 12 games left. He may do a miracle because that's what he can do. If we bring someone else in, how much money have we got off of them? That won't make sense to us. So Conte will be here right to the end of the season. Then at the end of the season, it costs them nothing to release him. And then hopefully they've already sweetened up Poch and he's coming across. Because that's what it's about, the financial package. It's not about what the fans want. It's not about the vision on the pitch. It's about the numbers.
If you're convicting, if you are in your mind now convinced of that nothing's going to change, what? How do we even approach Saturday? How can you think? How can we go into that with any kind of sustainable belief that anything's going to happen when we're not doing anything any differently? I said at the top of the show, the lack of goals, the lack of creation, the lack of chances, the lack of belief, the lack of vision. How can we continue down the trajectory?
We know we're going to get Son, Kane, somebody's going to sit in front of the media to say, we go again. We know we let down the fans. We're going to give you what we should have given you at the weekend. We're all hurt about this game. The script that's been written for them by the media team, they will sit in front of the camera and they'll all nod like this. Yeah, we're all feeling it. The training ground not been good. We're glad we got Conte back. We didn't perform for him, and we're going to perform against Forest. That's what we're going to hear. It's going to be that same nonsense. And then they're going to get the training ground photo. They might as well put the Rocky theme tune to it. And they're just going to doing the pull-ups, and they're going to be all in the training ground, pushing each other. And it's like, here we go again. And me and Jace will be living. There you go. That's what's going to happen. We know it. And then, unfortunately, we're going to see the tiki-taki back and forth, because it's going to be the same tactic. Spurs fans, we know this. It's not going to change. It's the sad reality of what it is.
I tell you what, I mean, you know what, Dale?
The problem thing is, Rick, is that they actually think that we buy that shit.
Exactly.
We're actually that it's an insult to the intelligence. They actually think that when they put up a picture, we actually mocked them this week on Twitter on like putting up pictures of the gym. Like, you know, which one of these 4 pictures, back to work, working hard, there you go. It's like, and they put it up. And like, I feel sorry for the social media guys because it comes down from up above. Put this up, you know, and they probably go, oh, they like put it up and like press send and go in the corner like they're like you know, head in hands, like well, their phone's probably just like burst into flames. But they actually believe, the hierarchy believe that when we look at that, they go, oh no, it will be different. Look, because they're all in the gym. It's like, to quote Roy Keane, that's your job. You're supposed to be in the gym, you know, getting ready to work. What do you mean getting ready to work? You should have been working tonight, but getting ready to. It's like, and they actually think that you buy into that.
Do you share Dale's belief, Cracks, for you that nothing is going to change and we are going to go in with this manager on Saturday against Forest? Do you generally believe that, Cracks?
I do believe that. I do, because they're probably
how do you recover? I know we've gone through it a couple of times here. How do you recover for a player going so publicly to say how unhappy he is and how poor the manager's been in terms of his man management over him? How do you I can't believe Richarlison would be coming out that publicly tonight if he genuinely felt he'd be coming into Conte tomorrow morning. No?
Well,
yes?
Yeah, you know, but then Arsenal had this with your man at Chelsea now, didn't they? That went off running around saying things, and you know that he might get a suspension or they might smooth it over with that translation thing. But ultimately, they'll look at it and they'll go, "Well, what's the monetary value of him saying these terrible things? Like, oh, it's probably going to cost us £2 million. How much to sack Conte? 8 million quid. Oh, okay, right. Smooth it over." It's like that. That's all they'll do. He'll be in the dugout again on Saturday, and they'll probably play Richarlison, trying to make it look like, you know, that everything's fine. You know, everything's all good. There'll probably be pictures tomorrow morning of Richarlison, Conte, and Beyonce driving around in go-karts under the stadium, laughing, going, "One big happy family, back to work, ha ha ha," like thinking that we're all going to buy into it. It's I can't see anything changing before the end of the season now. I think it just drags along like this. So it's sad truth.
I've got to say to you, never have I wanted to do another show more. So I do hope we have another show to come this week, because I just don't know how.
If not, see you in Beavertown on Saturday, bang opposite your South stand. Me and my boy, he's going to be 19. He owes Dad a beer. I'm going to get in there, get some anaesthetic ready before the game.
What a birthday present to take him to Forest. Anyone would say that's a nightmare, isn't it? What are you doing to the poor kid? Is that you sure it's a birthday present?
Character building.
I said, if you don't, I said, and when you start behaving yourself, I'll take you to 2 games.
Guys, look, it is always therapy. It is always a pleasure. I feel like I have to apologise on nights like this because it is difficult when these guys are some of the most positive guys I know. They give up so much of their time away from family for Last Word on Spurs, which I know they know how much I greatly appreciate it. And like I say, the viewers and listeners absolutely adore these guys. I have to say, tonight, before the show was coming out and they saw the panel, there was such an excitement in the air of what was to come. And it is such a shame that, unfortunately, the result and the performance didn't match the wonderful panel that we got together for tonight. But look, hopefully, better times will be coming. We will rise again. I know I sound like a Spurs social media post right now. Please forgive me. I'm not going to go down that route. But I honestly do feel that, look, we've been here before. We'll be there again. We will see this team win. And we're going to have to find a way of moving forward. As difficult as that is right now, we will have to find a way. But look, as things stand, Antonio Conte is still the manager as we record this. That very much change when you're listening to this on your commute to work in the morning. And if that does change, then we'll be back with you every step of the way somehow to try and understand what is happening with our football club. But before then, thank you so much for all your support. Dal, thank you so much, mate. You've got a good record on here, so I'm sorry that's currently being taken apart, but Christian Stellini has been used to that as well, mate.
Listen, I saw it was a 0-0, so theoretically, that's
right.
my positive spin on it.
There you
I saw
go.
0-0.
I'll tell you. Dale, always a pleasure, mate. Make sure you go and check out the Hartman, at Original Hartman on Twitter, across the socials. Please go and check him out. Love having Darren on. Rick, definitely the most angriest I've seen you at the start of a show. It's fair to say, I think you just represent a lot of what fans feel right now. It's just absolutely broken and just wanting to enjoy the football club again. And there's no shame in that. There's no harm in that. I think people love to see honesty. They love to see frustration. You saw my side against Forest. I think I'm just at a point now where you just, I hate to say this, as Crack said, you just get used to it. And that's the sad thing, that you go beyond that point of anger because you actually become accustomed to what you're seeing, and it doesn't hurt as much as what it should do because you're being used to being tolerated by this. I hope that does change because, yeah, I want to see you positive, mate. I love having you on the show and I love seeing your positivity. And I know right now it's really, really hard, mate. So thank you so much, and always having you on Last Word on Spurs.
No, listen, always an honour and a pleasure. Win, lose or draw, always come on you Spurs. Always come on you Spurs. So it doesn't matter, bruv. We've done Chelsea, the good and the good, bad and the ugly. And if that's where we are, that's where we are. But it's always a pleasure to be on. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been great being on with the boys. I'm sorry for being so angry tonight. I did try and calm down at some point, but it is what it is. I just had to say it from my chest. I was fuming watching it tonight, and my poor missus, do you know what I mean? I was trying to keep it quiet. I was like, oh, so I let it all out on everybody, all of the fans watching and all of the fans listening, and the boys on the panel tonight. I've laid it all out tonight. So thank you very much. And I agree with you, Ricks. There has to be brighter days ahead. We will win. We will rise again. We will get rid of the Titanic FC and rise like the Phoenix, and we will see the boys in the best glory they can be. Just not today.
Yeah. Honestly, Rick, mate, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you on Last One. So I was blessed to be in your presence, same as Dow.
Love to the missus and the kids as well, bro.
Thanks,
Congratulations,
mate. Yeah.
As well.
Thank you so much, Rick. Again, that's the one thing. Again, I will say that those that have, like I say, I've got a couple of weeks old at the moment. It as much as Spurs in my life, it consumes my whole life. Parents will know it does put it into perspective. When you go and hug your child, it puts it into perspective that, a hug and a kiss from your child takes away some of that pain. But then you do wake up and think, oh, it's Tottenham again. We all got to go back there. But, mate, thank you so much, Rick, Dow. Cracks, it feels right to close it with you. Final word with you tonight. Mate, you've been part of Last One on Spurs for a very, very long time now. You've seen off some difficult shows, some tough shows. It feels like we are now closing one era and about to go into another. Cracks, I'm not even sure you can predict what's going to be going on with our football club right now. Where do you see these next few weeks heading, mate? And again, just thank you so much for all your time that you've given to this show. And the amount of love that's out there for you, is huge. So, mate, thank you so much.
Yeah. No, thank you, Rick. Listen, everybody, listeners, viewers, Rick will be up till 4 or 5 in the morning now, putting this all together to go out on the pod. And I don't know if he's on paternity leave. Are you on paternity leave at the moment, Rick?
Yeah, at the moment. Yeah.
Right, okay. But when he isn't, he'll be up till 4 in the morning, editing the show, make sure it goes out, up at 6, off to do a day's work. Not like us, retired idiots, that just do nothing but this, with their day. And look, all I can say is everybody deserves better. I've sat indoors tonight, watched that, hopped onto here. that's easy. You know, that really is easy. Finding the money to go to these games, coming down from all parts of the country to the stadium, that's the hard yards, you know, up till 4 a.m. like yourself. That's the hard yards. They're the people that deserve much, much better. And I hope it comes to them more than anybody else. Like, you know, not for myself or any of us that do this, you know, people that tune into this, that everybody that puts in those hard-earned money, hard-earned hours to get to Spurs and get behind them just deserves so much better. So for them, more than anything, I just hope those better days do come along and the club, like, you know, appreciate that and do something that reflects what they put into it. My name's Ben Elton. Good night.
Amen. Guys, look, it has been emotional, to quote a famous saying. Look, as things stands, we are back with you on Saturday night for Nottingham Forest. Should anything change in the circumstances of our football club, we will be here to cover it. Dow's already given me the eyes to say, yeah, we might be coming back. Honestly, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say thank you so much for all of your incredible love, for all of your support in the comments. Thank you for tuning in for the therapy. We are going to be back with you very, very, very soon. Who knows, sooner rather than later. But from the wonderful Darren Hartman, from the superb Ricky J. Norwood, from the brilliant Richard Cracknell, we have been the last word on Spurs. Please keep safe, keep well, keep the faith, and as always, come on you Spurs.
Come on.